A couple years ago on this channel, I reviewed the xTool D1, the open gantry 10-watt laser that pretty much started it all. And when I reviewed that laser, I gave it a certain title and a certain award. I called it a bad diode laser. That crown now goes to the S1. The S1 is the latest flagship diode laser from xTool. And they've taken all the feedback over the last few years and all the complaints about open gantry lasers and basically fixed them by creating a beautiful, enclosed, safe, and efficient diode laser. The laser is packaged in a really user-friendly way. It's always nice when a company starts implementing things on the user's behalf just to make the experience that much better. Everything from the foam inserts to these Velcro straps that are used to lift the laser out of the box. All the packing material usually contains different pieces and parts that are used for that particular piece. If you buy one of these lasers, make sure you check all the foam inserts. A lot of them have little hidden components or pieces in them to make the packing and everything more condensed and more efficient. So make sure you don't miss any of those cool pieces. Sent out to me has the S1 diode laser, the riser base, the R2 Pro rotary, and their customized air assist that has an intelligent mode that'll only go on when it's needed or turned on within the software itself. And on the bottom of the air assist is something I have not seen before, and that is a changeable air filter, which I guess makes sense because if you're putting air into the machine, you want to make sure that that air is ideally free particulates that could possibly adjust or interfere with the way the air assist is working. And they also give you a couple extra air filters in the box. And it's a really nice design, self-enclosed, and the power also plugs into the back of the laser, which I'm a huge fan of. I hate having to run multiple power supplies off of a single unit for whatever reason. Within this set, I also received a honeycomb tray, which I think has been slightly redesigned from their other ones. I know it's a custom size made to fit the S1, but it has some nice measurements along the outside so you can kind of see what your actual work area is. And they've come up with a really ingenious hold down system that are magnetic, that are almost flush with the honeycomb base, and have a little wire loop to help pull them up out of the honeycomb. I think that small little innovations like this and inclusions in the packages make a huge difference when you're trying to get people going in a new hobby or possibly a small business with the xTool S1. Once you have everything out of the box and out, I recommend starting at the back of the machine here. That way you have all these things plugged in and you can finally turn around the machine, and depending on your setup, I think it's easier working that way. Everything back here is really nicely labeled, and we have a couple things to connect and plug in. So one thing we have is the intelligent connection for our air assist, and we also have our air assist line. General power for the machine plugs in really nicely. The data cable, which is a USB-C to a USB-A, unfortunately, or they at least should have included an adapter or a separate cable for USB-C to USB-C for all the Mac users out there. It just would have been a nice little convenience, but it's all right. We can buy other adapters, I suppose. And that plugs in right there. And in our little toolbox here, we have an included safety key that looks like this, which plugs in right here on the back. One thing that's really common with a lot of the machines, and I know it's kind of a logistics and engineering issue, that has to do with the power supply, which is our power switch is back here, which depending on your setup could also be a little bit of a pain to hit or adjust. But there's our power switch, and to the left of it, which I'll get a better shot later on, is our emergency stop button. So you have to reach to the back right side and hit that in case of any errors or anything not working properly, you reach back there and just kind of give that a tap and everything will stop. The last thing we have to do on the back side over here is connect our exhaust. Now, I don't recommend just leaving a stock exhaust like this. It's going to blow whatever smoke and particulates the laser is creating up into the air. So I really highly recommend using their included hose here, which is made for this, to vent outside, to vent through a window, maybe a separate exhaust fan, or if you have one of their air filters that you can use indoors, you can also do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and take off this, I guess, placeholder piece, and I'll put on the hose, and we'll be ready to turn around the laser and start working on the inside. And inside their little included toolkit, they give us this little color-themed hex driver to disconnect all the hex bolts here and put in the new one. And now we need to connect the hose with the same bolts that we took out. Something I want to quickly mention about the connections here on the back, you're going to notice just a couple extra ones. This expansion right there is for their fire safety set, which is an additional fire protection, which, I'll be honest, I've been using diode lasers for a couple years. I have never had a fire in my machine. I don't know if it's because I'm not pushing it as much or I'm not taking many risks, but if that's a concern of yours, especially if you're using it indoors, it may not be a bad idea to have an additional safety feature. So that expansion port is for that. They have a couple extra expansion ports here for other devices that they actually might include in the future. I'm going to assume that one of those is for the conveyor, which I do not have, but I do have the riser base, which is required for the conveyor. And possibly something else, which I don't know what that would be at this time. But as far as engineering and manufacturing, it's actually easier to include those ahead of time than trying to figure out a way to expand and add after. So I think it's a great addition for xTool and the S1 to kind of think ahead a little bit, which also tells me that this should be around for a while. Now with everything connected, let's go ahead and turn the machine around, get the honeycomb tray and the laser installed, and I think we're ready to power up. I'm excited. I can't wait. Let's do it. We have a little bit of prep to do on the inside of the machine, and that is to remove some blocks that they have in there to keep the gantry from moving within shipping. So let me get those out. In fact, I'll show a quick picture of them because I know that some people might have had trouble locating them. So now on to installing the star of the show. And that is to install the laser module. So xTool has gone through a lot of engineering and innovation to arrive at this. This is a single housed unit, all out of aluminum. It has their laser marking guide, the laser module itself, all the cooling inside, and a really easy to install design with a single plug. You have a port right there for the air assist and magnetic attachment and a couple screws that go in on the top just to help secure things so things don't move. Now, I'll be completely honest. I was hoping to get the 40 watt. In fact, that our original agreement was for the 40 watt. My contact informed me they didn't have any more at that moment. So I'll be honest, I'm a little bit salty about it because I really want to test out the 40. But the only difference between the 40 and the 20 that you're probably going to see is the cutting power and cutting capacity, which is a big deal. But I am going to get my hands on the 40 watt at some point. Everything else about the laser is the same. The only thing different is going to be the initial power. So keep that in mind. But if you are going to pick up one for yourself, which I highly suggest that you do, especially with Black Friday coming up, sales, deals, all that fun stuff, I highly recommend picking a 40 watt instead of the 20, especially if you want this to be a CO2 replacement for cutting and other things like that. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy installed. I want to get this fired up. I really want to test this. Something else I don't want to understate as well is they have changeable modules. So you have a 20 watt, which the lower watt lasers usually have a tinier laser dot, which means for more engraving accuracy and detail. So don't discount this just because it's less power. But it actually has some capabilities that the higher power lasers don't, like the detail of the laser itself. And there's a 2 watt IR laser that could do metal and other materials that these diode ones can't. So the interchangeability in a single machine is a huge benefit. And watch how easy this is to install. For data and power, one click, air, pressed on, magnetic attachment. Let me get the 2 screws. And then we also have to snap on our focus probe. So here's the other star of the show that makes a lot of the innovations possible here, is this spring-loaded focus probe that also attached with a magnet. This is used to measure the height of the material you're working on, and also is used for the process of doing the curved surface capabilities that this machine has, that I'm not sure if any other machine other than the P2 has that I've seen. That has a huge benefit. Even if you don't use curved material there very often or even plan to, having that capability and that option is extremely nice. And the probe just attaches on the side of the machine with a magnet, automatically aligns, and we're set. So I'm ready to get started. We're going to go ahead and mark the area that I want to engrave our first project. One thing I've always liked about the xTool machines is this little red cross here that shows us exactly where our engrave area is going to be and where that target area is. In a lot of cases, in most cases, I like this better than the camera system, where cameras have a lot of distortion towards the outside, especially most that are made for lasers, which makes accuracy very difficult. But this X marks the spot. I know where I'm engraving, and I think it works better that way. First thing we're going to do is set our focal distance. That's done in the software. Now we're set to start marking out the area that we want to engrave, which I'll put that as our top corner. Mark that there. Come down here. And I'll mark there. And we should be good. For my first test, I'm going to bring in an image that I pre-prepared for this test here. And I'm going to bring in this owl I'm going to be engraving on black acrylic. If the image looks a little bit weird, that's because I inverted the image. So I took the blacks and whites and basically switched them. Because I'm engraving on a black surface, everywhere you see that is dark in here is going to end up being engraved, and everywhere that's white is going to be kind of left alone, and it's going to give a really cool effect on the final piece. I don't need to do any additional imaging. I don't need to do any additional editing because I already have it all set here that I did in a different program, in this case Photoshop. So what I need to do is just basically connect the device and set my power settings, measure, and I'm off to the races. xTool has a handy guide here that'll get you started with any of the power settings. So all their machines up here, I have the S1. So take a look at what they recommend for acrylic, for the 20 watt bitmap engrave. So we're looking at 40% power, 200 speed, and 1 pass. Now these are starting values. I usually adjust after I've had some time with the machine and try to optimize it, like 120 lines per centimeter. I'm bumping that to 200 because I have a higher resolution image. Grayscale, I'm not using grayscale, I'm going to use Stucky, which is a dot format for doing the image, and I actually like it a lot better. And then inverted, which I already did. So this is a great starting list and reference if you're not familiar with lasers and you don't have a lot of experience in how they work. I have quite a bit of experience at this point, so I'm going to make those adjustments and we'll start engraving. All right, let's see how it came out. Oh, that looks really cool. This is a beautiful engrave. Ready to go. Acrylic is really nice to work with. There's really not any additional processing needed. Frame that up, put it on the wall, and God, enjoy this. This is beautiful. The S1 did a fantastic job. So next I'm going to do a cut test on 3mm bass plywood. This is probably the most common material that I use with my work. Those look like some clean cuts. Still smoking a little bit. I kind of wish the exhaust fan would stay on for a little while longer, or at least have a manual setting where you could run it longer or independently a little bit of the material. That's something that I think they need to update in their software. But once again, I think that's an easy fix. I'm also thinking about putting an additional inline fan at the end of this line. I think it needs a little bit more power, pulling some of the smoke out. Let's see how the cuts look. And let's take a look at the amount of burning, which is still smoking a little bit like I had said. Look, almost no burning on the back side with a 20-watt laser. I can't get that result with my 40-watt CO2. Man, those are clean. Standard size, 3mm plywood. It's not even overly scorched on the edges there. That is, God, that makes me happy. That means I'm really not going to be using my 40-watt CO2 much at all right now. And I'll talk about the limitations briefly at the end of this video. But I'll probably have another video dedicated to all the differences between the diode and CO2. I'm extremely happy. So the last thing I want to do is test out the curved surface feature that allows you to autofocus and have the laser head move in accordance to a curved surface. Alright, the engraving finished. Let's see how we did here. Nice clean engrave. And it's a good deep engrave too. It's not just the surface level engraving of the diode sometimes. They actually penetrate the surface. And on a curved surface too. So it opens up a lot of possibilities for things you can engrave. Dishes, bowls, some things that really weren't possible before. This is a saleable item. And even though it's engraved, it's food safe. It's just a laser. It's just a little bit of charred wood. Put some butcher block oil on here and, you know, do a quick wipe off and you're okay. This is just bamboo wood. A couple years ago on this channel, I reviewed the xTool D1, the open gantry 10-watt laser that pretty much started it all. And when I reviewed that laser, I gave it a certain title and a certain award. I called it a bad diode laser. That crown now goes to the S1. Even with the 20-watt module, it cuts and engraves better than most other lasers I've used, even my 40-watt CO2 laser, which may not be a good example. So we're here towards the end. Now, I want to be as transparent as I can in some of the things I'm about to say. There's a couple of important points I really want to make. So yes, xTool did provide me with this unit for basically an introduction and a review. But xTool is the most innovative laser company that I've seen out there right now. There's other ones that have had a lot of success in the past, huge audiences, huge consumer base, but have not kept up on the innovation side. xTool has. They've innovated at every step of the way, from the open gantry laser to their small format fiber laser, actually I think it might be IR, their P2 CO2 laser, and now the S1. They are pushing the expectations of what these machines can do more than anyone else. So much so, in fact, they just released a laser screen printing unit. So you could laser engrave silk screens and then do t-shirts. That was completely unexpected. But xTool is constantly doing those sorts of things. So if you want to be part of a really big growing community with a pretty big product base and choice for what you can do, and to start your business or just start a hobby that is really fun, I do recommend this unit. Now, Black Friday coming up, they're having a lot of different sales and deals for different bundled packages. Be sure to check those out because the prices can change on a daily, weekly basis. I don't speak for them on that side of things, but I do have an affiliate link down below. Click that and I'll take you to the page and you could check out all of your options right there. If you're looking at doing a lot of cutting for your production work or whatever it is that you want to do or make with the laser, I do recommend the 40 watt. If you're more interested in detailed engraving, probably the 20. The speeds tend to be somewhat comparable. You might have some people that disagree with that, but I've seen that you can kind of balance them to get pretty close to each other. And then you also have the option for the IR laser unit, which is 2 watts and will do certain plastics and metals. There's so much to choose from and so many options with this company. I think they are the ones to look into and possibly put into production in your shop. If you have tests you'd like me to run, if you'd like to see any other parts of the machine, anything I may not have dedicated enough time to, let me know. I'd be happy to do it. I'm going to have to make a couple other follow-up videos anyways, just because there's way too much content for one video, and this one's already running long. I need to install the riser base, and I need to install the rotary and do tests with that, and I'll be doing that in an upcoming video. The time that you spend watching these videos means a lot to the channel and makes me want to keep making them because I do enjoy making this content for everybody. And the comments in the chat and the questions that people have. I love answering those. I love helping people and promoting a hobby and business, because this is also a side business that my wife and I run. Once again, topic for another video, that I really enjoy, and I hope that all of you do too. So check the link below if you'd like to get one for yourself or something else from the xTool line of products. And don't forget to design, make, and play, and I will see you next time. Lasers are cool, especially this one.